everyone, I'm in the middle of painting a portrait right now, and I thought I might take a break and set up a camera here in order to record in real time how I am painting a sheer, almost transparent sleeve of her dress. And it's going to be an interesting exercise because I've never done it before, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun for me to work on and to share that process with you. Okay, so here we go. What I'm working on right now is painting these folds and folds of fabric that appear especially in the sleeves of Han Dynasty fashion. And you'll notice that the colors are incredibly dark on this left sleeve that I'm working on right now. And now with this, these highlights that I'm adding in, I'm actually adding in this almost olive color, but against the darker browns and navies and purples, the contrast actually makes it stand out more as a highlight, even though the actual color is quite dim and dingy itself. And that's kind of the beauty of painting with oil, is working from dark to light. You can actually create quite a bit of drama and contrast using very little changes in color and very subtle colors, and then adding that extra layer on top of layer in different gradients, then you make the fabric even more realistic as it reflects different aspects of light. And so I'm doing a lot of color mixing at the same time because I'm using so little paint with each layer of lighting highlights. So I have to mix the color on my palette, check to my reference photo to see where exactly this color should be placed. I put the dab of paint down, and then I mix the next tone, the next bit of color to add into the next layer. So here, I'm speeding the video up for you guys, but the seams themselves are reflecting the most light, and so I'm going several shades lighter in this section and really dropping in tiny ribbons of paint into edges of the sleeve that's reflecting the most light from the inside. And that is ultimately what's going to give this sleeve a particularly sheer quality. So I'm not necessarily painting over the arm or the other folds of fabric. I'm just adding those edges of light that give it the illusion of transparency. So now I'm adding the very lightest portion, which is still actually kind of a gray color, but against the almost black background. I'm painting the seams of the sleeve, and it's looking quite light, quite white almost, but it really isn't. So the process is actually quite slow when you watch it in real time. Just trying to be very careful, especially with the color of this light, to place it only exactly where it belongs. And with such a tiny brush, it's hard to keep your hand steady unless you rest the edge against a maul stick or against your panel, which is what I'm doing. Just adding that very small edge of light. So I'm going to be finishing up pretty soon here, at least in the base layer of highlights. Just adding some of the final touches here and there, checking my reference photo, making sure I didn't overdo it in certain areas, or flattening out some of the contrast. Okay, and so this is where we started out. Again, the base, muddier, darker colors, and then now here we have this transparent effect. And what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and add some more detail in the embroidery. I have embroidery in the other sleeves, so I'm going to mirror some of that detail work on this darker side. And because there's so many layers of sheer, it takes a lot of different tones to create an effect that shows embroidery from the top layer all the way down. But ultimately these details will create a lot more depth. Right now it looks like a pretty plain white sheer sleeve, and so by adding some of those darker embroidered details, it gives it a more luxurious look to the costume. And here it is. So we started out with the base layer, and then we added the highlights, and now finally with the embroidery it adds a lot more depth. So this is the finished painting. It's still not dry yet, but you can see ultimately how it ended up. So thanks for watching. This is the first episode of this kind that I've made before, so if you enjoyed seeing the process, please be sure to hit the like button below so that I know to make more of these in the future. And if you didn't or have any more recommendations, be sure to leave it in the comments as well, and I promise I will respond as soon as I can. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be creating a longer length historical episode on the subject of this portrait as well later this week, and you don't want to miss that because this woman is a greatly admired, influential woman in Imperial Chinese history and politics, so you'll want to learn more about her. All right, thanks for joining. I'll see you later.